Denisa, finally we have you on live. It's wonderful. I know. Well, I had to have these
Absolutely.
eye surgeries, and after these eye surgeries, well, I had three already, and now I'm waiting for this one to completely heal, and then I'm going to have this one, but after the summer, because I like swimming, and they told me not to swim.
Right.
So I'm going to have it afterwards, but I started driving again, but I still have a little dark spot here. Like I can't see all the way around on my right eye yet. So that's why we didn't come to Mexico because
Yeah.
my clinic told me that if I went to Mexico, it would take longer to have the surgeries because they would make me quarantine for longer.
Mm.
Yeah, so it's in our plan to come there. We're
Oh
thinking
yeah.
to relocate there actually. Between Mexico and Costa Rica, we're looking at both.
Yeah.
That's for everyone. Yeah.
Thinking they can fix this thing with one or two or three pills. It's a whole network that we need to address when it comes to longevity. So as soon as I heard about pluripotent stem cells, I was here in a week from Japan, flew across into Hong Kong, into LA, and I was here a week later.
That's so
Yeah.
wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, it's our plan to see you there. No
Yes,
kidding.
definitely.
It's definitely our plan to see you there, and we've told other people. Are you in this evolutionary festival this weekend? I tried to introduce you to James Stevenson.
No, I'm not. No, I
Oh,
haven't
you're
heard.
not. Okay, so it was my bad. I was so busy. I had 2 weeks of workshops back to back,
Right.
like week-long retreats, and so I told James to just write to you on Facebook. So I guess he didn't get through, but you'll be in the next one. It's a
Yes.
Oh,
it I'm in it tonight and we're in it tomorrow, and it's a festival where they're having stuff about sex and eros and how important that is to your health.
and they don't
Plus,
have me speaking? What?
Right.
he knows about
Crazy.
you. He knows about you. Plus, they're doing cryptocurrency as the money of the future, and they're doing biohacking.
Mhm.
Mm.
So he knows about you, and
Oh,
it's my fault that I was so busy. I couldn't like do everything. I couldn't get him to you, but I will get him to you because he wants to meet you and he wants to have you in a festival.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, you've got so much to share with us today. And
where there is a will, there is a way.
that's right.
absolutely,
That's right.
absolutely. Well, and apart from getting out to visit you in person and live in Cabo San Lucas, which I think would be an amazing experience, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure it would be. I love Cabo. It's amazing. Last time I was there, I got to do some, what was it, in the harbor or the bay, um, on one of those parachute things.
Parasailing.
Parasailing, that's it.
Wow.
And yeah, that left an impression on me.
Wow. I
Yeah.
haven't done that.
No? Oh, it's
No,
amazing.
no. Yeah.
Well, so I've got a couple questions for you, and just to really to kick off this conversation, is to just have you tell us about your concept of the erotic spectrum, something that I think you coined the term for, the continuum between Thanatos and Eros, and how these show up in our sexuality and in our lives.
Yeah. So last time we had a conversation, we talked about the four spectra of the future human. I spoke about this at the London Transvision Conference in 2019, and it was the how are we, who is the future human we're designing ideally. Things are really changing since COVID hit, but I still feel this is extremely important to keep in mind the physicality that we're designing, the metaphysicality that we're designing, the eros and the legacy of the human. I talk about this in my Bliss Designed work, and one of the spectra is the erotic spectrum of the human, and it's an extremely important part of um, our lives, our sexuality, our psyche, and our longevity. Understanding the place of Eros and Thanatos in our lives, and identifying when we are um, in like in each archetype. Now remember, it's a spectrum, so it goes from Thanatos to Eros and somewhere in between. You know, in the morning you might be in a Thanatic kind of part of the spectrum, and then you'll move into beauty and bliss and be moving more towards Eros. And we travel that spectrum. With one lover, you might be more in the Eros, the tantric, the bliss, the divine sex, and another you were in the BDSM and working out the wounds and the darkness and the freedom and the bounds. So you could be traveling around that whole spectrum along in your life. And as long as you know what you're doing, then it's evolutionary.
Right, and you're at choice. And you know what you're doing, and you're choosing consciously and consenting. When you don't know what you're doing, you're in trouble.
Yeah,
You know.
Agency. Yeah.
it's true. So Eros, why did I start talking about Eros? I'm a naturopathic doctor. I work in anti-aging regenerative medicine. I work with patients and clients. Why Eros? Well, I'm a hopeless romantic. It's just my nature.
Yes,
So-
you're a poet, and
That's great.
you write very romantic poetry. We know this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Siri's talking to me, so strange. So it's always been part of me. I've always seen life in a kind of mythopoetic way, even though I'm a scientist, but I always kind of like embellished the science with the beauty of the science and the ultimately the zenith of the human metaphysical and physical experience is bliss, ecstasis, eros. If we can live those more in our lives are much more worth living. Yeah.
Yes.
Instead of the opposite. Yeah. So it felt like it's not only just because of my character and the way I see the world, but it's also extremely important for human health to be in touch with Eros, bliss, and ecstasis on a daily basis. I mean, not every second of the day, probably, because even the flow state has 4 cycles: the struggle phase, the release phase, the flow phase, and recovery phase. Nothing is constantly blissful, right?
Right.
Right. Yeah.
But if you understand the cycles, and you can struggle better and recover better, then you have more flow state in your life. And
That's beautiful.
Wow.
So-
I love the way that you characterize that. Being able to move smoothly through those other spaces in that cycle gives you more flow state.
yeah,
That's cool.
Yeah. And also,
Yeah.
being able to move through them quickly lowers the cortisol
Right.
and gets you into an oxytocin or at least serotonin, dopamine,
Diminishes your-
endorphin state.
Yeah. It diminishes
So-
that cortisol, adrenaline charge that so often what is
People
that?
get addicted to that.
Yeah. Oh,
You know, I
was.
just want to tell people, if you're listening to us on Instagram, go over to extraordinaryloverstv.com and click on the link and get onto Twitch with us so you can hear Denisa.
Yeah, you're only hearing one half of the conversation. If you're on Facebook or you're on Instagram, definitely come over to twitch.tv, and it's extraordinaryloverstv.com, as Lori said. And just click on the link and you'll come
Yeah,
in and you'll be
'cause
able
I
to
know
hear
some-
the whole conversation. It's fascinating.
I know
And-
some more people came on.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of the work that you've been doing over the years, Denisa, all of this, including the work that you do in longevity and super longevity and stem cell work and things like that. Very, very impressive body of work. So thank you so much for what you do.
Yes.
It makes a difference in our lives.
For who you are in the world. Yes.
Absolutely.
you know, Michael, it's very sweet you say that, but it's almost like it's not really even me. I just I wake up in the morning and I'm guided a lot. The whole body of Bliss Designed. Yes, I was always kind of a meditative child, a romantic thinker, but Bliss Design came as its own entity, and I feel like I'm just channeling. I'm supposed to be speaking on this. It's kind of like I cannot not do it because it's my work for the God. You could say
I
it's
totally
all
get
ours,
that.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Eros came, so at first I started talking about bliss, then came ecstasis, because bliss is the yin of flow and ecstasis is the yang of flow. And you could be traveling between both in a flow state, in the same instances, a few seconds away from each other. So recognizes the flavor, the yin flavor of bliss is kind of like the existential inhale. And it's kind of, it's penetrative, not penetrating. That's ecstasis. So yin is, takes life in. It's an inhale, and ecstasis is an exhale. And it's penetrative and it's very active. Like think of the surfers cutting through the wave. That's ecstatic. Whereas bliss, just floating in the ocean and just taking it all in. And both are flow states, but they just have different neurophysiological signature. They have a different flavor. They have a different experience. So came bliss, ecstasis, and then started downloading a lot of the content on Eros because I felt like, well, that's the next piece. And I began to kind of like, reading a lot more about Eros from Plato, from Freud, from Greek mythology, of course. In mythology, Eros is the son of Aphrodite and Ares. And he is the god of love and creation and sex. And he's got, female counterparts like Aphrodite is,
Right.
Psyche is, Venus. These are archetypes, like they are in
Right.
all.
I mean, you're bringing back all of my elementary school. We learned Greek mythology in sixth grade, I think it was.
Really?
Yeah,
Lucky.
I know.
He was in Walmart.
Well, I was in Catholic school, but they did teach us that stuff. Because
Then
it
they
was
told you
interesting.
not to do it.
Well,
They taught it to you, and then they slapped your hand with a ruler.
what was interesting is they did actually show a lot of the Greek mythology, but inside of the Greek mythology, which is some of the greatest literature in the world, right?
Oh yeah.
And but inside of the Greek mythology were these archetypes that you're talking about, and Eros was one of the words. It's one of the words I use for love,
Right.
right? So there's all these
Well,
different
because
words for
Eros
love.
is the god of love.
Exactly. So, and that's an amazing look at how Greeks looked at love. They actually had categories for all the different ways that you could say
Yeah.
love, and Eros
Yes.
is one of the ones.
Yes.
Yeah,
Love
absolutely.
that.
And of course, he was written up by Hesiod or Parmenides and a lot of the books. And he was also the god of friendship and liberty, interestingly. So a lot of the soldiers used to, do some kind of a ceremony around concept of Ero to be protected by their buddies. Interesting, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And of course came Ishtar content and Isis and Mary Magdalene and all the Sufi mystics, and all of that started to make sense. But Plato wrote on Eros in the Symposium. I did my first degree in biology and philosophy, so I've got like a lot of, I had to read all of the Plato and Socrates and so on back in the day. But Eros was put on trial in the Symposium, yeah? And that was a really fascinating look, again, to look at the history of Eros in those times.
Isn't that interesting? That's sort of like how Eros is put on trial today, right? Like sexual, especially on Facebook. Forgive me for saying it's true. Eros is on trial.
No one's going to forgive you for saying this.
I know, but
we
still,
know.
it's polite to say forgive me, I guess.
It's censorship
Totally.
to the max.
Oh yeah.
So Eros
Oh,
is
yeah.
put on trial by
Yes.
Mark Zuckerberg.
Even the clitoris is being put on trial. I'm running the clitoris.io, and
Yeah.
I posted something on the clitoris, and they said like, this is not according to our Facebook standards. There was nothing, odd about it. It was an anatomical description.
Well, and
but,
and you're a doctor. I mean, for crying out loud, if anybody can talk about the clitoris, it's certainly you. And
Yeah.
this is your new project, right? You're working on this. Can you
Right.
tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, this is a kind of a new endeavor. Myself and my colleague, the chief scientist of Stemaid, Dr. Bridget Hanley, have put together. We've also brought on board Nadine Gary. She is the founder of Go Topless, the movement of women to be able to go topless.
Yay.
Yeah. Right?
Right?
Hey, Michael, if you can go topless, I can go topless. Come
That's
on.
That's
right.
exactly.
That's
Yes,
right.
absolutely.
I have always resented that men could just take their shirts off and throw them into the back seat,
Well,
and we can't. We
and we
get
got this.
arrested.
There's a guy who runs down Shea, and he's like built like a brick shit house, and he's just running along, and he's topless, and I'm like, all the
I
other
hate
women on the
him.
road
Yeah,
could be have the same right.
that's right. So go
Nonsense.
ahead. So you have her on board,
Yeah.
the founder.
Yes, so this is a project we're working on. It launches in a month, and I am so honored to have Lori come and
I'm coming
speak
on.
on the clitoris. This is the Clitoris Summit, the world's first international summit on the clitoris, and we've invited all the key pioneers that have been designing clitorisy for decades. Helen O'Connell, who mapped the clitoris. She was the one who was able to anatomically show us that this is an actual organ underneath
Right.
that's really powerful and has 8 to 15,000 nerve endings. I mean, it's astounding what's going on physiologically. So she's going to come and talk to us about her findings. Dr. Pierre Foldes from France, the father of clitoral reconstructive surgery. You know that over 140 million women worldwide are mutilated. The clitoris is cut because, God forbid, pleasure.
Right.
It's devastating.
Right.
This happens to little girls at the age of 9. I want to slap some people. Not
Yeah.
even slap, really hurt them.
Yeah.
I mean, who does this
Yes.
to kids? Anyway, so
It's-
he's
it's-
able to reconstruct it. It's pretty incredible what they do. Him and Dr. Marcy Bowers from San Francisco, they're coming on as well. And she is a clitoral reconstructive surgeon. She's worked in Africa many times, and she goes often. And she'll also speak to us about gender affirmation surgery. I'm interested to hear what happens to in gender change surgery.
Right.
Right.
How do we create these structures, and how do they respond in pleasure, and how does it change? Like, I want to ask all these questions. I don't know enough about that. I'm not a
Sure.
surgeon. So yeah, she'll speak, and then Genevieve will speak. She is the most mythopoetically rich human being I've ever met. You thought my language was amazing. You have to meet Genevieve. She is beyond. She is the founder of Mogadao Institute in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and she is redefining Taoism. She's a Qigong master, and she's transgender, gorgeous. I have a crush on her. She's so incredible. Her mind blows me. So she'll come and speak.
Wow.
And Lori will be there, and people from, experts from Africa and Germany and Japan, and Jade McGaff will be there, my good colleague from Hawaii, and Evelyn Veras, a doc from that works with us here at Stemaid, but she's Dr. G-Spot. So she's
Dr. G-Spot. I love it.
MD.com. She's Dr. G-Spot.
Doctor, say that again. Dr. G-Spot. MD.com.
I think it's drgspot.md or drgspotmd.com. I'm not sure which of the two, but she's
well,
a
that's
good friend of
great.
mine. And she's amazing. She is a Spanish-speaking physician, so her English is a second language, but it's really amazing to watch her speak. She's just like fearless. So she's a plastic surgeon, and she does the G-spot activation with injections. And actually, her and I inject the clitoris and the G-spot together. I do that here at
You
Stemaid.
do that with PRP?
We do it with pluripotent exosomes.
Oh, okay.
Much better than PRP. I used to do it in PRP in Hawaii, but I just don't use PRP anymore because it's just the exosomes have all the reconstructive growth factors.
That's
all
so
the
great.
factors, all the angiogenic factors, the microRNAs. It's really the medicine of the future.
Well, we have somebody who is viewing right now. I think she's still viewing, but she had some questions about how to bring sensation back to her clitoris.
Right.
And I'm having a sense that this is probably the perfect time for her to be watching. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, get her to come to the Clitoris Summit or reach me. But I do the clitoral injections with exosomes here. And yeah, I just
Is
don't
anyone doing it in Toronto? She's in Toronto.
Right.
Ah, good question. In
That you
Toronto.
know of. I mean, you may not, but maybe you do.
Contact me because I'm actually Canadian. I was
That's right.
Toronto. So I know a lot of colleagues there. I think there is the Vitality MD. I know some people that might know the answers.
Okay.
Okay, that's great. That's awesome.
Perfect.
Because I'm saying that to you because for people from Canada right now to be able to travel to Mexico and then go back to Canada is very difficult.
Yeah.
The Canadian government's making it very difficult for people to travel in and out of there. I can't go.
I
And
can't go back, and I'm Canadian.
exactly.
No, it's a tragedy. It's almost like a really bad dark comedy. I'm sorry. I just feel like the whole
I'm with you. I'm like, you got two rings for that. It is a dark
It's a
comedy.
dark
like,
comedy,
wow.
this whole thing. It
Yeah.
is.
Oh my. And Canada,
Yeah.
I'm so heartbroken that this is happening in Canada because I can see, okay, it could happen in places where, you know,
There's more where there's more usually where there's more tight controls, but all of a
yes.
sudden this is happening in Canada. I was speaking earlier on the show. Michael wanted to move to Canada a few years ago, and
It's true.
I was in Kelowna, and I bought him a bunch of like Canadian refrigerator magnets, and I said to him, "This is to inspire you to move to Canada. I'm not moving to Canada, but you can, you know." And he was like, "I'm moving to Canada. It's freer there." And all of a sudden,
Yeah.
No,
it's
it's not.
not.
Yeah. It's freer south of the border,
Right.
which, who would have thought?
Yeah, which is
So,
where you
Yeah, I had
are.
a
That's
lot of friends. Yeah, when the whole when the US president problems were around a couple of years ago, a lot of people were thinking of moving to Canada.
yeah.
Oh, but
yeah.
I'm
And we're
so
looking at
sad how it
Mexico
went.
and other places
Yeah,
rather
now
than
we're
Canada.
looking at
Yeah.
Mexico and Costa Rica. So,
Right.
I was looking even at Iceland, which even though it's so cold and it's dark, it's an awesome country. But I decided that I would be more at home south of the border.
Mexico, Costa Rica.
Yeah.
Seriously considering all the places that,
And
in
someone
fact,
else we know
Cabo
is
San Lucas,
considering,
because of you
yeah.
specifically,
Somebody
because
else
It's
is
you're down there.
also
considering Argentina.
Yeah.
Argentina. Oh, but
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, I love tango, so that's one thing that I
Me
miss
too.
here. Remember when we spoke at the Rad Fest? When you spoke at the Rad Fest and I introduced you, I was the curator,
Yes.
and we had that panel. And I remember us talking about learning Argentine tango. If we're going to live forever, that's one of the things I really
That's
want to get
right.
good at.
That's right. Me too. I'm not good at it, but I want to.
Yeah.
It's so worth it. It's such a sexy experience, right? And
Yes.
it's very kind of like, it's just healthy. It's like 3 minutes with a dancer. It doesn't lead to sex. It's purely dance and pure connection. And it's this perfect moment of 3 minutes. I once had
Right.
a teacher from Buenos Aires in Hawaii, and I was a beginner, so I thought, he's not going to take me. He took me and he gave me one dance. And literally in 3 minutes, I realized all the things in my life I had been missing.
Oh, I love that. 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Tango is 3 minutes, and then there's a little,
In 3 minutes,
and it's
he
over,
gave
and
me
then you
the
dance with
world.
someone else. Right.
That's tango.
That's beautiful. Well, here's
Yeah.
why I think
And
tango is so.
that's nice.
All right, I was going to say why I think tango is so sensual and so sexual is because it invokes surrender, which I don't know if that's Eros or Ecstasis. Like I don't when you were giving the cycle before, I don't know which end tango is on, but it involves surrender.
Well, anything you do can have erotic energy or thanatic energy. You just
Mm,
have to recognize it. Erotic energy, Eros, is the life instinct. Thanatos is the death instinct.
right.
Eros comes from an unlovedness, a healthy, positive polarization of our lives. So you trust the world, you see it as beauty. You've come to that place after all the struggle, right? You finally see that it's worth trusting and loving life itself. Eros,
Yes.
life instinct. Thanatos is the death instinct, but it doesn't necessarily involve death. It involves ending annihilation of pain. We all carry wounds. We all carry
Right.
unworthiness. We all carry shame and guilt and X, Y, and Z reasons why we're not worthy of beauty and living. It's natural. I go through it even now. I mean, I'm not super evolved. I'm involved enough, wise enough, but I'm not God. I have
Yeah.
moments. But so Thanatos is the death instinct. It's a wounded reaction uh, of being in the world. So, and it's so the difference is in Eros, your intelligence is in love, and in Thanatos, your intelligence is in pain. It's wounded, and you react from that place. So,
Mm-hmm.
folks that live out of victimhood, I've been in victimhood too. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
get it. And the day when my victimhood veil came off, I will never forget. It was like a new life, and it came in an
So
instant.
good.
Yeah, it was like, wow. I
That's
can't believe
beautiful.
I've been that person the whole time.
But you learned it. You learned it because that's like our culture is so steeped in it. All the
Right.
movies we've ever seen in Hollywood, they all have the victim, and then the rescuer, and then the persecutor, and so you learned it. It's culturally learned, and women are supposed to really have that and to play it. And so it's great when you take that veil off. It's awesome to
Got it.
take off the victim veil. I want to let these people go free.
Okay.
If you want to continue to watch us or if you just tuned in, go to extraordinaryloverstv.com and hear the conversation on Twitch because that's where we are right now. In case you tuned in and you just see us nodding, it's because we have this fabulous speaker with us, a fabulous friend of ours, and you can't hear her on Instagram.
That's
So
right, because we have her in our ears so that we
yeah,
don't have a loop.
I'm gonna
So
take
she's
this
going to
off. So
turn
I'm
off
say
that
goodbye
part
to
right
you.
there. Thank you so
Love
much for joining
you.
us.
Okay.
So you could have an Argentinian master take you for a dance, and he could be fanatic. He would be dominant. He would move you. One of the dancers that I met along the way, he told me, I don't lead the woman. I take her to her freedom.
Wow.
It was very beautiful, and I was like,
Very
that
nice.
is healthy, and that's the divine healthy masculine upholding the feminine.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right. That's beautiful. Well,
beautiful.
when
And
I
of
was
course,
there, my teacher was not Argentine. My teacher, my guide was Peruvian, living in Argentina. And he took me onto the dance floor and I did things that I didn't know I could do. And he even made his business card based on a picture of him and me dancing together. One of these things where I'm like almost prone. I'm in close embrace, but I'm almost prone. Like my body is like this, and my one foot went over the other. And someone took a picture of us, and he used that as his business card. And I went, well, at least I have a record that I was that once.
wow. Oh, that's great. I want to see that. Send it to me.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, that's so nice.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
it
I
is a
love,
material.
I love what that guy said to you, what that master said to you. That's beautiful.
So Thanatos is in Greek mythology. Thanatos was kind of like one of the minor gods. He wasn't a big god, but um, um, he was the son of the night, Nyx. Yeah, and all of his brothers were like really badass, like bad boys and bad girls, like the the god of old age, Geras, right? Old age. The god of suffering, the god of doom, it's all of those, naughty bad kids. And even his brother was the god of sleep. And think about how asleep the world is, yeah?
Yeah.
And his name was Hypnos, like hypnosis, yeah?
Right.
So it's kind of, I think the Greek mythology was getting at, what are the dark forces of our lives? And creating gods that explain those dark tendencies that we have. But I say they're not evil necessarily, although a lot of people would argue with me. They would say, oh, there's a lot of evil in the world. I'd say, there's no baby that's born evil. That is wounding. You are wounded, you are tortured, you are maltreated, and you may never wake up out of that pain and anger, and you take it out onto the world, and you become Thanatos and Hypnos and old age and God and doom God and blame God and deception God. There you go. And there you have Thanatos. And you can you can be an incredible lover, fanatic lover, and be like super super demanded by women because they're working out their wounds with you as well. And you've been there. You've been with lovers that have allowed you to work all that anger and shame and guilt and play it all out, BDSM or vanilla sex, it doesn't matter. It's the energy.
That's right. Absolutely. I agree with you. And some of my colleagues are those dark forces, are those dark men who help women work it out with them, work out their jealousy, work out their possessiveness, work out their need to be special, all these things. And then, sometimes they get mad at these men, and the men are just like, no, I gave you the best I could give. And my job is to like bring out those wounds so you can get over them. And the same thing with to me, I said to Michael when we met, I said to him, Michael, I'm going to disrupt your life. And he said, well, what does that mean? I said, I don't know
Please
yet.
clarify.
I don't know yet, but I know already that if I get involved with someone and I have sex with them, I don't even have to say anything. Like how it is that I will disrupt your life because I'm holding a big space for you.
That's right.
And I see the sexual connection as transformative.
Right.
So everything you're saying yes to, I'm saying yes to all the dark forces because we need to look at those within ourselves and make choices.
Yeah. So identifying fanatic lovemaking and erotic lovemaking and the whole spectrum in between is, I think, really helpful. I think you can have a BDSM session wherein you're in full, pure, divine tantric eros.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you can have vanilla sex where your husband is holding you down, and that's Thanatos. Right? Or he's just like not looking at you because he's better or he wants you to feel shame. Like,
Right.
So identifying the energy behind the intent and what is that archetypal force being played out, not just in lovemaking, in anything you do, in any conversation you're having with someone. I think there's a lot of fanatic forces right now in the world, especially around the concept of medical freedom. A lot of darkness is coming out, a lot of that domination. So it's very interesting to see it on all these levels.
Yeah.
I love the way you look at things. I just, if I had to say, oh, Denisa Rensen, what's the thing you love about her the most? It would be like your take on things. It's so expansive. It gives so much play to polarities and to everything in between. And so thank you for that. It's refreshing. And I'll just say, since you just brought up the medical field, it's lacking in the field of medicine. It is so lacking. It's so refreshing to hear you say that and to know that you operate from all these different, on this whole spectrum. People just don't, most doctors. I just gave a talk on 2 nights ago, and it was to 35 women, and I said, who did you give your power to? Who'd you give it away to? Your partner, your parents, your children, or your doctor? And they were all like, I said, I think you gave your power away to one of those groups. I don't know, maybe all four of them, and people said, oh, we gave our power away. And I said, I added your doctor because, I assume that half of you are on some kind of medication and you probably gave your power away to that person. And they were just blown away when I asked them that question.
Wow. I'm blown away by it.
You are?
Yeah. Totally.
Wow. And then one woman I was talking about, I told this earlier in the show today.
Right.
I said that we attract to us partners who make us look at things that are inside of us that we didn't want to necessarily look at, we didn't know we had to look at. So everyone we attract has a meaning to us, has something intensely symbolic to us for our own growth and development. What is it? And so my internet went out, and at some point this woman ran into her house and said, honey, thank you for being you. She just told me that I attracted you because of something I need to learn. And she kissed her partner and then ran back onto the Zoom call.
She accepted the hero's journey.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So
that's
good.
really true. And also we give our power away to our wounds, and that's where Thanatos comes into play.
Yes. So good. Now I have a different question for you altogether. And so I wanted to tell you what's been going on. I've been posting about sex and happiness over 60 and sex and happiness over 70 because I'm now 73. And I've been getting a lot of pushback from people in the world and in my communities saying, why don't you just give it up, Laurie? Why do you have to be sexy and be older? Why don't you just get in the flow and stop trying to be sexy and all this? And so I have pushed back and said to them, I can be however I want, and I plan to be sexy and happy forever. And you're not going to try and get me to dry up and wither up, And so I wanted to get your take on that because I talked about it this show and I talked about the last show.
That's right. Yeah.
So I like to hear your interpretation of why, I think it behooves us to stay youthful, stay healthy, and stay sexually healthy.
Right. That's good.
Well, Plato talks about it in the Symposium, and one of the things he really refers to is the empty rainbow of conventionality, the banality of science, colorless science. I think a lot of people don't value the place of eros and passion and living life turned on like we do. They just don't have that erotic. I used to have a really great when I was teaching Bliss Designed salon. I used to have this great way of putting it, it'll come back. It's the
Sure,
of my time.
sure.
But yeah, so on a spectrum, you can be. Another word for Thanatos to me is numbness. So we travel between ecstasis and numbness. So a lot of people are really numb erotically, sexually. You can tell them just by looking at them, whether they are sexually charged, whether they've got erotic moisture in the way they speak. And, there is a lot of very dry, colorless lives. And look, I don't have super erotic moisture days every day. There are some days I'm like, oh, let me just not do anything, and just, I feel the flatness and numbness sometimes too. So it's natural, but sometimes people live that just kind of like this flow state that has the 4 stages: the struggle and the release and flow and recovery. The struggle part, you can spend an entire life, an entire decade in the struggle phase if you're in sympathetic overdrive, cortisol, norepinephrine, beta waves. You could live that and never come out of it. And it's almost an addiction. It's an addiction to a state. And I think it's an addiction to an identity, a philosophy. Even though you see evidence against it, you'll keep it because it's your identity.
So good. That's so good.
That was like, that's exactly what I'm reading out of Psycho-Cybernetics right now.
And Michael used to have discovered that he had an addiction to cortisol, and he broke it.
Yep.
He broke out of it, but he had to discover it first.
Yeah, when I found it, it was mind blowing, and I found it because I was waking up every morning with these like terror dreams, you know, and they were lucid dreams. So I felt like I was in the moment having these dreams, and every time it was like something that had me at the height of cortisol and adrenaline. I would wake up like this, like, and I'm, you know, I haven't been to war. I don't have any of those kinds of traumas, you know, PTSD or anything like that. Maybe a life that's been lived with, you know, some pretty harsh realities, but not like that. And I was like, this is not that. This is me just having a need every morning for this chemical in my body. My body is now addicted to it. And that's what I had to break. And I noticed it happening during the day at certain times of the day. And especially when I was driving back and forth to work. And those times, if I wasn't driving back and forth to work, I would still get this need for the adrenaline and cortisol. Because driving makes me crazy.
I so hear you. Oh,
because of all the other people on the road, you know. So anyway, that was a really powerful awakening. And then
your nervous system gets a set point. It gets wired to a certain comfort, a set point. So changing that, it has to do with the vagal tone, vagus nerve. Absolutely. Polyvagal theory will inform a lot of that.
Yeah.
And what I see here at the clinic with the stem cell patients who come here and do this pluripotent stem cells, that are the only stem cells that essentially go to every tissue of the body. So it's full body rejuvenation when you get it through IV. So it goes into your body and it starts to find places where it needs to go and signal self-repair and self-regeneration. And about day 5 or day 6 after they're here, I see a change in the way there's a softening in their eyes that you see when the vagus nerve shifts from a dorsal firing to more ventral firing, the parasympathetic more. They're a lot more trusting of their life, of the world. There's a softness. They come in with this, oh, I've been battling this all my life, not all my life, but like so long, I don't have any other options. And it just softens. And it's really beautiful to see. Yeah.
I love that.
Polyvagal theory.
I'm so jealous. I want to go right now. We have a big weekend. We can't
I'm going to Google that after the weekend.
That's what I was thinking. So wherever you decide to relocate near me, because I will be near these cells. And
I know.
It's just the best place to be.
I know.
And I am awesome to hang out with.
I know.
Yes.
I really know. So,
well, listen.
You guys are awesome.
Denisa, you write about health and longevity, and that it needs to be turned on. So, what do you mean by this?
Oh, so it's exactly what we're just kind of indirectly covering with Lori, is the to live with the erotic moisture in your life flowing through your body, seeing okay, so you could talk about it physiologically or psychologically or spiritually. Yeah, there's so many layers to this feeling turned on. It really begins with really beautiful humility. And this is not like the big H, like I'm humble, I'm small. No, it's like this cosmic humility that you're not the CEO of the universe, that you are a sentient being among billions of others on this planet. And how beautiful is that? A trust in being alive itself. So that's the spiritual side of it,
I love
and
it.
I think when you reach certain levels of metaphysical freedom, or enlightenment or awakenedness, it just comes naturally. There's this softness and humility that settles in, and you trust. Even if hard times come, you have this, you trust the layers of your life and how they unfold, and you welcome it. And you don't well, you could say surrender, but I mean, surrender is a discernment, a knowing that there's this power underneath your intellect that governs it all. So surrender is in fact very empowering.
Wow.
It's
That's
different.
so good. That's so good. That turns me on.
Glory handle. Oh my God, I did my job.
That's so
Good
great.
job, Denisa.
That's the best compliment I've had in a long time.
That was so good. That really,
Mm.
that really was. It was a total turn on.
Yeah.
It's so
So
true.
do you,
And that's
so
what
do you trust your life now?
totally trust my life. And look, I mean, I trusted going under surgery 3 times. Like that was that was scary. You're up. They have you under anesthesia, but you're up, and then it's a 10-minute thing for the cataracts, and then the same thing for the retina, and then but that was different. That's taken a long time to heal, and I trust it. I'm trusting it. I trust the medicine. I trust everything that I've been doing and the way I think. I trust all this time of Tantra that I've been doing, all these practices that got me more in touch with my body. Yeah, I trust. I trust him. I never
you.
trusted a partner before. It was like
Really, never?
I never picked anybody that I think was trustworthy.
Oh,
I didn't.
Oh,
thank you.
Michael, you're the man.
I mean, I met Michael, and I
We all
didn't.
love Michael.
This is one of those humble moments. Like, wow, thank you,
I
honey.
never picked anyone who was that
Take it in.
trustworthy before, who really could hold me, who could bring it, who could meet me. And so I had to, I waited a long time for that because I made such stupid choices. I was telling people, I said I made my choices based on how somebody looked. And making my choices like that, they turned out to be very shallow, those people. Some of them were deep, but many of them were shallow. And I was making my choice. I wasn't vetting people based on things that were important to me. It was like some picture that I used to call it the TWA getaway card. They don't even have TWA anymore, but the getaway card where the people could be cutouts and they would be walking down the beach holding hands, and you could just put paper doll cutout clothes on them and they would look like they're, and that was my love life. It was so stupid. But I can only say that looking back now, and also having somebody who meets me, I could say, wow, I need to tell people to really vet their partner. Like it doesn't have anything to do with our initial chemistry.
Right.
It has to do with how we connect when we connect. And then what do we talk about? And so,
Yeah,
yeah.
we did that. We had I think we had a very lively
Vetting conversation.
vetting conversation, and not talking about what are our likes and what are our common interests. We talked about values. Like we went deep. We said these are our values. This is what matters to me, and this is what matters to you. And we were aligned on a lot of these, and I think that's what really made.
And
the
then he
difference.
said, should we date? And I went, yeah, we should date.
Wow.
I'm such a smooth operator, right?
You're
Should
not.
we date?
Beauty.
Sure, why not?
But it was really based on values, and I try
Yeah.
to say that to people. So, yeah, I feel like I didn't waste time because I got lessons from everything. But I never thought I never thought that anything like this was possible. I didn't.
Wow.
So,
Yeah, I guess me either. We're making it up as we go. So, all of those of you who are listening who are wondering about this thing we call extraordinary lovers, this is a creation. I think I said that to you when we got back
yeah,
together. I said, you
let's
said,
create it.
what is this we're doing? And I said, I don't know. Let's create it. And that's what we've done. Yeah.
And it's almost like its own, it has its own life, it's its own entity creating itself and communicating beauty to the world through you at the same time. So it is you, but don't take it too personally.
No,
But it's
you're right. You are
right.
right. Don't take anything personally.
Oh,
No,
so good.
that's good,
We've
Denisa.
I
had
mean,
such a lovely time.
and that's
with
one
you.
of the things I love about you guys the most. You have such personal love. Like when I'm with you, or when I'm talking with you, I feel like I'm with you and you're with me. There's this beautiful personal love, but at the same time, just like any intelligent postmodern human will know that, oppositional, you can have personal love and know it's cosmic and impersonal, and then don't hold on to it. Just let it just unfold in front of you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
good. So good. All
Everything
right.
you say is so poetic. I love that about you. Uh, well, listen, we had a wonderful time with you
Well,
today, Denisa. What just a magical moments we've had today. And I think the conversation has really gone very deep, and I'm excited to see the response from people as we put this out on YouTube and
Right.
we connect with more of the people on our Facebook and our social media. How can people get a hold of you? How do they get in touch with you? If you wouldn't mind giving us your contact
first, I
info.
want everyone to come see Lori. Oh, so sorry. First, I want everyone to come and see Lori speak at the Clitoris Summit.
Yes.
Yes.
Uh-huh. So the clitoris is the signifier for human dignity, freedom, and pleasure. That's what it stands for. And it is the sexual organ of the human, the one that just serves that purpose.
That's right.
Right.
Great.
So come and celebrate it. Her, him, whatever.
Right.
And so clitoris.io. And I designed the whole platform. So please give me your feedback. The
Okay,
website,
great.
it's all my creation visually. Now, conceptually, it's work of myself, Dr. Brigitte Hunley, and Nadine Gary of Go Topless, beautiful women. And we also have an amazing team, also international. So it's all amazing, loving, passionate international women from Sweden, Italy, France, LA. It's all over the place. So come to that. And also you can find my work at blissdesigned.com. And in person, you can find me in Cabo at Stemaid Institute. I'm here every day. And so come, and we always have incredibly powerful, deep convos here as well.
Lovely.
So
Wonderful.
that's where you can find me. And please do come visit Cabo, and you guys do consider relocating close to me so we can have a nice 5 p.m. glass of wine together once in a while.
Yes.
Put our feet up. And yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right. And
Thank you for
everybody,
having
we have to say goodbye to you, Denise, and we have to say goodbye to everybody who's been on with us today.
Yes. Thank you so much. You'll be able to hear this podcast played again at sextalkradionetwork.com. And thank you so much to Sex Talk Radio Network for
Yes.
sponsoring our podcast. They keep us going. We love them. And so you can find this podcast there. You can also find this on YouTube. And if you're listening to YouTube right now, please go ahead and smash the subscribe button and hit the little bell. Make sure that you get the notifications when these videos go live. Thank you so much, Denisa, for being with us. We really do appreciate you. This is the live stream for lovers held every week, currently on twitch.tv and soon to be on YouTube.
Yes.
So I think I've handled everything. We love you. We'll see you next time. Enjoy your life and be extraordinary.